Conservation is a rare word in today's African or even Nigerian vocabulary. You agree with me that you have not heard about that in a long time, or maybe you've not used it even though you have heard about it. But today we're going to be talking about that and more. We have representatives from the NCF, meaning Nigeria Conservation Foundation. Correct. Okay, so we have amazing representatives here with us, and they are going to be breaking down all the difficult terminologies. They're going to be telling us exactly what the NCF is doing, why they are in Calabar, and what NCF is about. Well, I have with me in the studio this evening the Director General, Nigerian Conservation Foundation, person of Dr. Joseph Ananda, all the way from Benue State, even though his residence in Lagos. Good evening, sir. Thanks for joining us on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's beautiful. I think I rooted you in Idoma.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Welcome. And then this is not a strange face to you. You've seen him before, you've seen him, but it's been a long time. And we're bringing him back for your viewing pleasure. A good time to thank you for this time. Talking about the Director of Business Development and Communication, Mr. Uchenna Achule. Hello, sir. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome back to CBC TV.
Yeah.
You were once a familiar face and then you disappeared.
Well, I'm happy to be back.
Welcome back. And then finally, we have the Acting Director of Technical Programs, Mr. Adedayo Omeni. Welcome to the show, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening.
Okay, so now we get to talk about conservation. NCF is doing an amazing job, but just me and a few other Nigerians are aware. So I'd like you to do a lot of enlightening this evening. I have little knowledge, not so much, so I'm also going to be learning. But first, why are you in the city of Calabar? What brings you here?
All right, thank you very much for having us. First of all, can we replace this with a glass of first of all, so that we will try as much as we can to reduce the use of single-use plastics. Try to encourage beverage companies so that we'll be able to find better ways of preserving our water and sharing our water. So for an organization like this, it's good for us to have ways where we can always use something that we can recycle or upcycle and so on. So it's good for probably your guests to have a glass instead of the bottled water. Yes, so that's part of the things that we do.
That is important for us. Thank you for that massive correction. I think a lot of us know. So we should not take water with us anymore.
No, we should. What I'm saying is that we should try as much as we can. For instance, for a place like this, we should have a dispenser so that everybody can go with their cups and then get water instead of buying it always like this. Yeah, it helps. It goes a long way.
So much.
Causes a lot of pollution.
Yeah.
Causes a lot of pollution.
And it ends up in our oceans. And it's said that by 2015, if we continue with the way we are going, we may have more plastics than fish in our waters. And currently, the rate of plastics that we have, fish continue to nibble on them in microplastics, and they embed themselves in the tissue of fish. And guess where it ends up? On our plates. So it's very important for us to have the awareness of some of these things and some of our actions and inactions and how it affects the environment and how it eventually comes to affect us.
This is going to be a long day. Okay, we've already started learning. So my producer has taken me to not do this anymore. I apologize. Yeah. Thank you. That was a good one for us.
Yeah, so back to your question on what brought us to Calabar. So the Nigerian Conservation Foundation with partners, the Wilder Institute, the Calgary Zoo, and African Center for Wetlands Center for African Wetlands in Ghana. We want to see what we can do to also involve ourselves in the conservation of Cross River gorilla. There are a lot of work to be done in that space. Some work has been done, but also there's still more work to be done. There's always things to be done around there. So we want to contribute to our quota in the promotion of the conservation of and protection of the Cross River gorilla, which happens to be endemic in Cross River State in Nigeria. And though it has its range, it goes to Cameroon as well, but it's endemic to Cross River State. And it's important for us also as the leading conservation organization in Nigeria to also put our hands in it. Because at the point in time, it was thought to have gone extinct. But the field expedition led by NCF and WWF kind of discovered that they still existed in 1983, 1984. And over time, other organizations have gone into, tried to continue to work conserving the Cross River gorilla, and we are coming back to that space as well. So we see it as very important. And where else to go to, especially as we are talking about building capacity in terms of masters and PhD. We are partnering with the University of Calabar, which is strategically located in Cross River State, to be able to provide that space and that platform to award degrees to the students who are going to be doing research that will promote the further conservation and protection of the Cross River gorilla and their habitat, and also the communities that are around that these species live with, so that we'll be able to all encompassing. Because as NCF, we want a situation whereby people live in harmony with nature.
That's beautiful. Thank you for choosing University of Calabar and Cross River State. I mean, at least our students get to enjoy the benefits of these things. All right, let me also ask you, Mr. Uchenna, talk to us about what the NCF is doing in the conservative efforts you guys have been undertaking in recent times. I know that since 1918 you've existed, but I want to know, this is like, for us here, we know you exist, but do you feeling the impact yet? Maybe we are feeling it indirectly, but just enlighten us. What are you doing?
Okay, thank you for having us on this show. So when I hear people like you say stuff like this, it challenges me more and makes me feel like I'm not doing my work. So I hope my DJ will not give me a query for that. But the truth is that NCF has been doing a lot of work in the 40 years of our existence. And a lot of people are aware of what we do. I'm sure somebody like you might not know that we have a zonal office in Calabar here. Yeah, and we have in other states also. So our work cuts across everything that has to do with nature conservation across Nigeria. So in almost every state in Nigeria, you will see NCF footprint and project that has happened in those places. So, and it cuts across biodiversity conservation. But now, last 2 years, we now decided to come up with a new strategic direction, the SAP of NCF, that has 4 pillars. And under those 4 pillars, we have the Green Recovery Nigeria project that talks about the landscape and how to preserve it. And we have a pillar dedicated to that project. We have the species that focuses on trying to save the species in peril. I have a pillar for that. And we also have another focus area, the climate change. So trying to tackle the climate crisis that is becoming a serious talk across the globe. And then the 4th pillar is partnerships. How do we bring all stakeholders, all partners to come together, and everybody all has on deck for us to make sure that our environment, the nature, is protected and conserved. So we've been doing all of this. In the last 2-3 years, the Green Recovery Nigeria has been something very special for us. We've been working with governments, with corporate organizations, with different stakeholders in making sure that we plant trees and that we also stop the destruction of the existing forests. Deforestation activity that is happening everywhere. Those are things that we trying to make sure that it's nipped and is stopped. So everybody is taxed. Students, we go to schools to try to catch them young and teach them about environmental education, about planting trees, and how to also, like my teacher said, live in harmony with nature. And then we also try to teach about conserving species. So the Cross River Gorilla project we talked about is one of such. We also have other projects targeted at saving other species that are critically endangered. Vulture. We have a campaign against the killing of vultures, against the killing of lions, the hippo, and elephants, and so many of these other the pangolin. And all of that, because all of these species I'm talking about, they have special roles that they play in the ecosystem. So each of them we take out causes some kind of imbalance in the ecosystem.
So for example, let me stay on you, please. For example, the vulture. You said that just recently. Vulture. How important is the vulture? Not just because it has an ugly look, but it feels like it's a very important vet, regardless of how it looks. Nature is doing that.
Yeah.
So talk to us about how important culture is in the ecosystem. Very briefly.
Okay, so the vulture is a very unique species and animal when it comes to the ecosystem. My DG here is an expert in that area, so I think I'll defer to him to speak. He's an authority in that area,
Yeah, so thank you very much for that question. And the vulture species, especially, I'll speak to the one that we have in Nigeria, which everybody knows and is cosmopolitan, and that's the hooded vulture. The hooded vulture over the past 6-7 years has declined so much that its population has gone down to almost 95% declined. And that is why it moved from what we call from the IUCN least concern to critically endangered. So in the IUCN endangered species status, you have least concern, near threatened, vulnerable, endangered, and critically endangered and extinct. So the vulture moved from least concern to critically endangered. That is, if we continue at the rate we are going, in the next few years, they'll be wiped off the face of the earth, especially for Nigeria, and the cost of them not having them around is very high. Now, hooded vultures, because of the way their biology is and their function in the ecosystem, they are what we call the sanitation officers, nature sanitation officers, and that is why you normally find them in carcasses on dirty areas, so-called dirty areas. What they do, nature has placed them there to take care of the microbes, so that before it gets to the human population, they go in there and clean it up. And they have a very good system, digestive system, that once they clean these things up, it's acidic and they are able to contain these things without passing it on to the human population. Now, if they don't do such work, because in the process of decay, it has a lot of microbes that causes anthrax, botulism, cholera, and so on. So because of that, it reduces the health costs that would have come in terms of money and in terms of the human cost of life as well, because we are not properly immune to these diseases. When they come into the human population, there is a tendency that it comes with the cost. We've had some of these diseases when they come into the human population, they become epidemics and so on, and then we have all of these issues. So, but nature has put vultures in this place to help clean up this, and that's why when they don't have feathers on their head, it's for them to be able to enter carcasses and clean up these things. So that at the end of the day, when vultures finish feeding, what we find is just the dry bones and so on, so there's no waste in nature. But they are suffering serious decline, and that puts us in a grave danger. And when you remove them, they are what we call the obligate scavengers. So when you remove them, the facultative one, that's the ones that are just opportunistic, like rats and dogs, and you agree with me that these ones come to the human population very frequently, and they don't process these diseases. They bring it wholesale to us. Unlike vultures that process it and don't have contact with us. But these ones bring it wholesale to us, and that's where we have danger, because if you remove vultures, then these guys step in and then they'll bring the diseases to us. And that's how we continue to say that there's a need for us to conserve and protect our vulture species, because they are very important in the ecosystem.
Programs coordinator somewhat. I'd like to ask, what are the programs you have put and strategies you have put in place to ensure that humans like myself, who is a Nigerian that does not believe vultures are good animals, what strategies are you putting in place to ensure that we are educated and enlightened enough to stop it? 5% left, that is critical indeed. So what are you doing? What are the NCF programs available?
Thank you so much for that question. And like my DG and the Director, Business Development and Communications, they have said earlier, we now have a 5-year strategic action plan. One of the pillars there is dedicated to species and program, not just every species, those that are in peril, those that are critically endangered. And what we do through that is to have a dedicated focus on saving those species. Now, with particular reference to vultures, our market survey, our data gathering exercises, right from 2017 all through now, we have tried to map out where we still have vultures left in the wild. And these places, we have tagged them vulture-safe zones. And through that, we've now inaugurated a group of researchers, trackers who daily monitor what happens to them. in the world and their environment. That is one. Then two, we want to bring together at national level stakeholders to draw action plan to save vultures where they are still found in the world. And also a major component of that particular drive is environmental education, awareness, policy and advocacy, and public engagement to let people know the values of keeping vultures around and what they do to us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. But just talk to me very quickly in like 30 seconds. Are there stringent consequences for humans who falter in all of this? Who still go ahead to kill vultures? Have you done anything? Have you sent bills to the House of Assembly to just enact these laws? Because I'm beginning to feel like we all need this enactment, but yes, some people will still go ahead to fault. So what are the plans to, make them pay for this supporting this?
Thank you so much. I spoke about policy. I spoke about advocacy. I spoke about awareness. We have engaged relevant stakeholders, particularly the enforcement agencies. There are laws that protect them. And now we felt that there is a gap in terms of enforcement. So that is why we have brought in relevant government agencies that are in charge of enforcing this particular.
What agencies, sir?
Nestria is one.
Say again?
Nestria.
Nestria
is one. You have the Nigerian immigrations.
Okay.
You have the Nigerian customs, the Nigerian police, the local vigilante groups, and nature enthusiasts. And we now have ambassadors to promote vulture awareness and vulture appreciation.
So that's beautiful. We have ambassadors who are in our space that we can relate with. I think that's beautiful. I wish we had more time to have this interview a little more earlier. We should have had more information because this is such a critical conversation to have. Thank you, DG, for joining us today.
Pleasure.
I hope we have you again, DG NCF. Dr. Joseph Omaja, thank you once again. Director of Business Development and Communication, Mr. Uchenna Achille. Thank you so much. And Acting Director of Technical Programs, Mr. Adidayo Nene. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you learned a thing or two. I learned a lot. Thank you for staying with us on the show tonight. Join us again tomorrow on another amazing edition of Life in Nigeria. Coming up next is the news at 8 with another platform. Stay with us.